Hello, everyone. Today's story takes us back to the 1950s in T-City, where a mysterious case known as the body borrowing and resurrection incident shook the entire city. Could reincarnation and the afterlife truly exist? In 1944, Will, the owner of a construction materials business, was working on a construction project on H Island. He worked long hours, rarely returning home for months, leaving his wife, Lydia, to take care of their family. Strangely, every time Will returned home, Lydia would fall ill, and when he left for work again, her health would miraculously recover. This pattern was perplexing. Lydia had undergone numerous medical examinations, all of which showed no abnormalities. As Will's visits home became more frequent, Lydia's illness worsened. Eventually, she fell seriously ill, prompting Will to urgently return from work. During his journey home, he felt as though there was an added weight on his bicycle, making it unexpectedly heavy. However, his concern for his wife occupied his thoughts, and he didn't dwell on this peculiar sensation. Upon arriving home, Lydia's condition suddenly deteriorated, and she fell into a coma. As Will rushed her to the hospital, her heartbeat and pulse stopped. Despite the hospital's efforts to revive her, Lydia passed away. According to local tradition, the deceased couldn't be immediately buried but had to be kept for 3 days. However, something inexplicable occurred on the day of Lydia's funeral. Lydia's lifeless body suddenly sat up, opened her eyes, and declared, "I am not Lydia, I am Zahara from J City. My body perished in the war, and now I am using Lydia's body to return to life." Will was in shock. His wife, who had just passed away, had now come back to life at her own funeral, speaking incoherently. He had no choice but to pretend to be calm and asked her about her well-being. Lydia replied, "After my death, I became a spirit and followed you, waiting for your wife to die." Lydia, now seemingly inhabited by Zahara, recounted a shocking story. She claimed to be Zahara, an 18-year-old girl from J City during World War II. In that year, war had broken out, reaching their home. Zahara's parents were killed by stray bullets while attempting to gather their belongings and escape. Left alone, Zahara embarked on a perilous journey to flee the war. The boat she was on drifted near H Island, but after days of hunger and desperation, the vessel ran aground on the shore. Local fishermen discovered her, barely clinging to life. Zahara believed she was saved, and she told the fishermen her story of drifting at sea. However, these fishermen, driven by greed, looted valuable items from the boat and, fearing repercussions, pushed the weakened Zahara back into the sea. Zahara's spirit had been wandering ever since. By a twist of fate, she spotted Will and, knowing that his wife was about to die, attached herself to Lydia. Will was unnerved by this revelation. He recalled the added weight on his bicycle and the fact that his wife had passed away whenever he returned home. It was clear that there was a connection, that he was even teased by his co-workers for his good fortune, as there was often a woman accompanying him, possibly his co-workers seeing the ghostly presence following Will. Initially, no one believed the words of the resurrected Lydia, and they could only observe Lydia's condition gradually. Lydia's accent had completely changed, as if she were truly from J City, a place that was unheard of for a woman who had never traveled far. During those times of limited information flow, it was challenging to even know about the existence of J City. Moreover, Lydia's demeanor was reminiscent of a young girl. She had never been to H Island, yet she could provide detailed descriptions of the island. As for Lydia's previous family and friends, they were complete strangers to her. Lydia, who was once illiterate, was now helping Will with accounting. Previously, Lydia had been frail and could only manage basic household chores like laundry and cooking, but after waking up from the funeral, her physical strength had greatly improved. She could even work in the fields, but she no longer cooked. Lydia, who had been a meat eater, had transformed into a completely different person, only consuming vegetarian food and avoiding meat and fish. At this point, Lydia's family had no choice but to believe that Zahara had truly borrowed Lydia's body. There was no scientific explanation for Zahara's act of borrowing a body to return to life. This incident created a sensation throughout T-City, prompting numerous media reporters to cover it. However, was this supernatural event real? Some media outlets traveled to J-City for interviews, and according to local recollections, there had indeed been a grocery store owner with the exact same name as Zahara. However, his family had been displaced during the war, and their whereabouts were unknown. There was no way to confirm whether he had a daughter named Zahara. Many believed that Lydia had developed a form of dissociative identity disorder, causing her to adopt another personality. Lydia had heard Zahara's tragic story before, which left a deep impression on her, leading her to imagine herself as Zahara. In 1948, a hospital director from T-City was entrusted to investigate. After a thorough examination, he found that Lydia spoke clearly, her eyes and demeanor were normal, and she showed no signs of mental illness. Some believed Lydia suffered from an extremely rare condition called foreign accent syndrome, where head injuries could affect the brain, causing the individual to speak with different accents. This condition was exceptionally rare globally. After the hospital director's confirmation and widespread media coverage, the transformation of Lydia into Zahara became an established fact. However, many questions remained unanswered. Only Lydia's relatives were interviewed, while Zahara's family had never appeared. Some of Zahara's neighbors had visited, but she didn't know their name or profession. The limited communication of the time prevented verifying the truth. After returning to life as Zahara, her health greatly improved, except for occasional knee pain. She rarely fell ill and lived nearly 60 more years before passing away due to organ failure. With her departure, any chance of confirming the events was lost. As for whether the concept of reincarnation and the afterlife truly exists, it remains a question that each of us must explore for ourselves. That concludes today's story. We'll meet again in the next one.